You know who's 2-0 and has 2 thumbs? And me. Both of us. I was going to be,
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, one loss between the table.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
There's only one loss at the table, and that's you.
Yeah. That's right. 1-1. I'll make my charge.
It's all right. Or Penn State Blake. Yeah, get a shot of him. Look, we got the camera on him right now. Wave to the crowd.
Say hello
Penn
to
State Blake. There he is.
There he is,
Penn
the
State
legend
Blake.
himself.
There you go.
In the darkness with his 2 losses.
Yes.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, Lawrence Jackson. We have a loaded show today. We are talking about selling high on those off the hot starts. Keep it open, close it out. Returns, of course, with Lawrence here. An early look at some Week 3 spreads. But, guys, 2-0 fantasy managers drink free today.
That's right. That's I drink free.
I'm drinking free.
You drink free. You drink free.
You drink free.
I'm drinking free.
Lawrence is drinking free.
Wait a minute. You're all 2-0?
We're all 2-0.
I'm going to have to study the tape on that one. I'm not sure.
Hey, I don't got that many points, but I'm 2-0. 2-0 is 2-0.
Better to be lucky than good. Lawrence, you're living life right, is what that means. That's clean living right there. You know who is not 2-0? That's Blake. So we saw it in the clip. So Blake, I think, actually has to serve us the drinks, right? Once again, by the way, keep the counter at 0. Days in which Blake does not get thrown under the bus. But yeah, so everyone out there, if you're 2-0, congratulations, well done. You drink free tonight at the Happy Hour bar. You know what just happened just before we went on air? There is minor news that everyone's treating as major news. Let's get into this.
It's our Rotoworld Player news. It is major news, according to Matthew Berry over here.
It's not. It's minor news. It's being treated as major news.
Kareem Hunt
Rotoworld.com
agrees to a 1-year, $4 million deal to return to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, this looks like a Jerome Ford fantasy manager right here to me.
No.
80% fab later.
How about this? Yeah. How about this looks like somebody that watched effing football last year. How about that? Because you're like, oh, Matthew, fine, you prefer Jerome Ford over Kareem Hunt. You know who else prefers Jerome Ford over Kareem Hunt? The effing Cleveland Browns. Because that's what the choice they made this offseason. They were like, we're good with Kareem Hunt going away because of the confidence we have in Jerome Ford. And you know who's excited about Kareem Hunt being on the free agent wire, being out there available to be signed? Literally no one. 31 teams took a look. 31 teams passed. He had some camp visits, and they were like, yeah, we're good. There were running back needy teams, the Saints, the Colts, and they were like, they took a look at him, and they were like, yeah, we're good. We're good. Oh, you want to leave us to go to Indianapolis? We'll see you. That's fine. Last year, 3.8 yards per carry, career low. 4.8 yards per target, career low. Single-digit fantasy points in 14 of 17 games last year. 10 or fewer touches in 10 of 17 games last year. He was running back 47 on a points-per-game basis. So everyone's like, oh, my Kareem Hunt, he's a big name, and I get it, but not worried at all. He is a running back depth signing. It's only because of his previous success, candidly, with the Chiefs and I guess somewhat with the Browns as well. But honestly, I still think this is Jerome Ford's backfield. I think he's there for depth, and they'll spell him a little bit. But barring a major injury to Jerome Ford, I don't think Kareem Hunt has standalone fantasy value this year.
Yeah, I make the jokes, and you're definitely a little biased because you have Ford, but I'm going to agree. You got to. Like, they don't have any running backs on the roster. You got Jerome Ford, then you got Pierre Strong. So the Browns just needed a running back to have a running back, and why not have a running back who was just with you last year? We saw what Kareem Hunt did last year. He wasn't as successful as his first couple of years with the Browns. So at best, I could see him filling the same role that he had as last year to Nick Chubb. This time he'll do it with Jerome Ford, who just went for 106 on 16 carries. So that's nothing to just turn your head over either.
Yeah, I don't think it's major news. I'm not sure it's like medium news, but I think it affects Jerome Ford more than it affects Kareem Hunt in a way where you don't have to be, well, here's the thing. You have to be good to provide fantasy value, but you don't necessarily have to be good to ruin someone else's fantasy value. And I think that is the thing, is how much does he eat into Jerome Ford? I think the counter to that would be that Jerome Ford was never going to be a 3-down workhorse back the way that we hoped that Chubb would come into the season. So there was probably always going to be someone cutting in, and it's probably just going to be Kareem Hunt instead of Pierre Strong.
I would argue the same situation that when Ramondre Stevenson when Ezekiel Elliott signed with the Patriots,
Sure.
and we're like, we think this is actually the best possible case for Ramondre Stevenson because, again, like if they had brought in like Leonard Fournette, if they had traded for Cam Akers, if they traded for Jonathan Taylor, right? I mean, like somebody that we'd seen be successful more recently, then you're like, this is a little bit more nervous. But the fact, again, it has been over a year since we've seen Kareem Hunt look effective, look like the old guy that we used to have. And maybe like the time off is, there's a little bit of fountain of youth. But yeah, they were always to Jay's point, they were always going to bring somebody in. And I'm actually glad that it's, somebody who's Kareem Hunt, who the current coaching staff is very familiar with, and they've made their decision sort of on where they think these two running backs are. So I still think Jerome Ford is a top 20 running back the rest of the season.
Do you think that
even with like he'll play 65, he'll get 65% of the running back touches. Maybe 70.
Do you think they're out on still bringing in another running back?
I think if the opportunity presents itself, I think this week will be very telling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a team that's built to win right now. So
Right.
I think that in 2 weeks, if they feel they need some help there, they will go out and add. But Jerome Ford has an opportunity here. And everything we saw against the Steelers and what we've seen in flashes since last year has made you think like this is a guy that can easily take the next step.
Tough first audition for Jerome Ford against a stout Titans run defense who no one has been able to run against for years at this point. So I would say that I would expect Jerome Ford to not have a great game this weekend, and then I would trade for Jerome Ford for someone who is thinking that, I'm getting the next Nick Chubb, and now Kareem Hunt's here. Jerome Ford's had a bad game. At that point, you trade for him.
I agree.
Another backfield we're keeping an eye on is the New York Giants, as they're on the short week against the Niners on Thursday Night Football, and that's because Saquon Barkley dealing with a somewhat significant ankle injury, but Brian Daboll after practice not ruling Saquon out just yet. Take a listen.
As far as Saquon, I don't know if you care to share anything on his timeline, but obviously it seems like he's going to be out for at least some time.
Well, I wouldn't count on that, Dan. Not just yet.
Okay, I mean, safe to say he'll be out on Thursday night?
I'm not saying that he's out yet. He's a quick healer. I'm not saying he's in, he's out. We're going to take it all the way up with him to Thursday, but he feels a lot better today. I just talked to him, so we'll see where we're at.
Brian Daboll with the old, I'm not saying he's out, but I'm also not saying he's in.
I've heard the other New York coach, Robert Saleh, has not yet ruled Aaron Rodgers out of the game against the Patriots.
Yeah, exactly.
On Sunday.
Brian Daboll won't rule out Saquon Barkley, but you know what? I will.
Yes.
I'm going to officially rule out Saquon Barkley. Make plans to not have Saquon Barkley in your lineup this week against the Niners.
Nice try, Brian Daboll. He almost had the happy hour days.
I mean, they said it was 3 weeks, like, a couple of hours after it happened. Now, buddy coming in here saying, like, don't rule him out. I mean, you could look at the injury right there. Like, dude just falling on the ankle. He might be a quick healer, but this would be, like, legendary, historic type stuff if he were able to play tomorrow night.
Listen, if it was week 18 and it's a game against, like, the Commanders to get into the playoffs, then sure, maybe he plays. But I think week 3, short break against the 49ers run defense, Gary Brightwell can run into the line for 1 yard per carry, just like Saquon Barkley could against this team.
I guess, look, never say never, but my expectation here is, and by the way, if Thursday night comes and he is active, then I think you probably have to start him and hope for the best.
That'll be something.
I know, but
something.
I don't think you're going to have that decision. I suppose it depends on what other options you have there, but my expectation here is that you should avoid the Giants' run game on Thursday night.
Yep.
Other notable injuries that we are tracking.
If you have to pick one, it's Breida over Brightwell, but again, ideally I would avoid.
As you see right here, Joe Burrow still dealing with the calf injury. We'll see where he's at in a couple of days. Anthony Richardson, right before we sat down to record this show, is still in concussion protocol. He will not practice Wednesday, so signs it's not trending in the right direction for Anthony Richardson. And then Austin Ekeler right after them, guys. There's no timetable for his return right now, Barry, for Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, I don't know that there's, no 4 scarier words in fantasy football than no timetable for return. Because normally at least, even you're Barkley, it's a 3-week injury, right? Dave Montgomery supposedly told Adam Schefter it's going to take me 3 weeks to get right. We'll see if he plays this week or not, but he feels like it's going to take him a couple of weeks to get in. Even Jonathan Taylor, in theory, it's a 4-week injury, but he's going to be healthy. We're expecting Cooper Kupp back after the 4 weeks. That's the current timeline. No timetable for Austin Ekeler's return is wait, what? I'm sorry. Wait, I mean, does that mean he's done for the year? Does that mean he's done for 2 months? Like they don't know what it is. No timetable for his return. I mean that's so. I mean, Josh. I know Josh Kelly was not good this past week, but I do think he will find more success this week against a Vikings defense that through the first 2 weeks of the season is a bottom 3 run defense. I mean, we just saw DeAndre Swift have a game of all ages against the Minnesota Vikings. So Josh Kelly should have a lot of success against the Vikings this Sunday in Minnesota. This is. I mean, like again, I feel like this is being swept under the rug because there's so much talk about Nick Chubb. Right, and then that's a week after Aaron Rodgers and J.K. Dobbins are out for the year. But like, there's a scenario, guys, where Austin Ekeler doesn't play this year. I mean, no timetable for his return is just right. Anyone else
it almost sounds. It's
wait,
like
guys,
it's
what?
like hearing the word indefinitely. It's
Yes.
like they're not giving you like you. If it's 5 weeks, say 5 weeks, and then at least we know. But they don't know. It could be 5. It could be 2. We could be surprised. Like, hey, Austin Ekeler full practice.
It just feels like. If it wasn't super serious, there'd be, hey, we'll reevaluate in 2 weeks. We're week to week. We're day to day. We don't think he's going to play against Minnesota, but we're hoping for the week after that.
Could it not also just be Brandon Staley doesn't want to answer questions about it? And he's like, we don't have a specific timetable on him. Yeah. It is weird that there's no timetable to return on an ankle injury. That's the weird part. That normally this is about like a hamstring like Cooper Kupp or a degenerative knee or something. When it's an ankle, it feels like you should be able to diagnose that unless it's a high ankle sprain, which would be a great concern. So I don't really know what you do. Like everyone has rostered Josh Kelly at this point. I think you just have to hope for the best with Ekeler. Obviously not dropping him or anything.
No, you're definitely not dropping him. Hopefully get more clarity and just add it to the long list of stuff that drives us crazy about Brandon Staley. But the couple of positives here is that Austin Ekeler gets it. Austin Ekeler is one of us, right? I mean, he is a fantasy player. He is a fantasy manager. He co-hosts a fantasy podcast. He's an investor in a fantasy newsletter company that I'm very fond of, called FantasyLife.com.
Can you
text
I was just about to ask you the name of that.
Yeah, it's FantasyLife.com.
Can you text your investors and find out if they're going to play?
Yeah.
I really should.
I'm actually in a league with Austin Ekeler right now. And,
can you message him?
No, but I will say this. He is 2-0 in the league, so he drinks free as well. And he has, of course, Justin Herbert as his quarterback. Get well soon, Austin Ekeler.
Lawrence, one more on that list.
So anyway,
Waddle.
yes, I mean, but my point is that all I was going to say is, all those jokes aside, is that Ekeler throughout his career has been very transparent usually with his injuries. Guys, I'm not going to go this weekend. Guys, I know it says questionable, but right. I mean, exactly.
Yeah,
Last week he said pick up Josh Kelly, and he has previously been like, I know it says questionable. I'm playing Sunday. Don't worry, fantasy managers. I got you. Like, he's very aware and transparent. So hopefully, even though we're not getting any answers from Brandon Staley, we'll get some from Austin Ekeler. But the fact that there's no timetable for his return. Anyway,
another
no
timetable
for your turn is
we're
crazy.
keeping an eye on. Jalen Waddle took the head-to-head hit in the Patriots game by Marte Mapu. It was an unsportsmanlike penalty, so he's obviously dealing with what could be a significant head injury there as well. When you look at Waddle and that Dolphins offense potentially without him, how do you see that playing out? We've seen Tyreek Hill get a ton of volume, but how about everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, definitely keep an eye on this as well. There's been no report of whether he's practicing today or not, but he hasn't gotten off to the start that we all have liked. Wide receiver 37 so far, but he's still getting those big plays and efficient plays whenever he gets them. Just monitor this situation throughout the week. Should he not be able to go this week, for the DFS players, or if you need to put in a quick flex or something, Braxton Berrios is the guy who lines up in 3 wide receiver sets. He's got 8 targets so far, not a lot, but he's played 56 snaps so far, and he is in the offense connected to Tua Tagovailoa.
No love for River Craycraft.
I was going to mention him, but he hasn't played as many snaps as River. I will say this: their numbers are similar, and he's got the touchdown. But he's got the touchdown. But in 3 wide receiver sets, it's been Braxton Berrios over River Craycraft.
So we'll see how that plays out for the week, but certainly something to watch there. Maybe some more love for Durham Smythe, our guy Durham Smythe, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Or just Raheem Mostert touches it 25 times a game. So we'll wait to see. I don't know what's going on in my throat here. Like it's something like I don't know. They're home.
There's
to
no
Denver.
timetable for a return.
No timetable for my return. Maybe I should just stop talking. Maybe I just sit here and drink. Which is my normal, standard operating procedure here. But
I
they're
need
playing.
Blake to come out to the bar.
It's a one. But I will just say this: it is a 1:00 game on Sunday. West Coast team traveling east. Denver Broncos coming east.
We'll get to that one.
I mean, exactly. Think about that. Denver all the way, and they got a night in Miami. They get out of Denver. All the players
for that
get a
loss
Saturday.
too. They still stressing off that loss. Like they trying to see what's happening in the Miami streets.
Okay.
And then the next day, Braxton Berrios go off on them.
Oh yeah, there you go. Give me some River Cray crap.
All right, guys, let's take
I
a
just
look
like the name better.
at Who's Eatin Good, served to you, of course, by Applebee's. These are players that have just had a really nice start to the season through the first 2 weeks, and we're going to figure out if they can keep this going. And, Jay, we start with Brian Robinson.
Hang on for a second. What was our bet last? You and I had a bet on
Yeah,
Sunday
it was
for a steak dinner at Applebee's. What was
it? Was Desmond Ridder over Sam Howell. I won. Both of them was good, but Desmond Ridder was quarterback 10. Sam Howell was quarterback 14. So now we are
sure about
even.
that?
Desmond Ridder played one of the worst games of football I've ever seen. He
ever
ran
seen.
into the end zone.
He ran into
Yeah.
he did get a rushing touchdown
Howell
where
was
Howell
great.
did not, but I feel like Ridder also had a. Are we
Making up
Blake?
numbers.
Hey Blake, I know
You got the laptop right here.
Hey Blake, I know I've thrown you under the bus, but can I will praise you if you can find stats that show that Sam Howell had a better fantasy day than Desmond Ridder last week. I thought Desmond,
looks like
I
Lawrence
thought,
is right. Yep. Ridder was QB 10 and Sam Howell was QB 14.
Brutal.
Put a Desmond Ridder jersey on the wall.
You're
No,
gonna be
we're
eating good
absolutely
as well.
not doing that because Desmond Ridder was awful, and Sam Howell actually led an amazing comeback against the
That
Denver
hating
Broncos
get you
on
nowhere.
the road.
Come back. The Falcons was down 24-12 in the fourth quarter.
Ridder's
Yeah.
no good. It's going to be Taylor Heineke in week 5. I'm telling you now.
We could bet on that too.
Look, hey, you want to that's fine. So,
But we even, though.
We even. It was
We
double.
even.
It was double or nothing. So
Yeah,
now it's back
yeah.
to nothing. You want to go double or nothing on Ridder versus Howell this week?
Probably. Yo, Lions, yeah, let's bet it up.
All right,
bet
good,
it up.
done.
Bet
done.
it up.
I don't, and Commanders playing the Bills, but I don't care. That's how bad I
That's
think Desmond
cool.
Ridder is.
That's how I felt against the Packers. Like, hey, it's whatever. I'm rolling with my guy.
All right, so one of you will be eating good. You know who else is eating good? It is
We'll
Brian
both be eating
Robinson.
good, but one of us will be paying at Applebee's.
Brian Robinson,
yes.
RB5 on the season.
Yeah.
Week 3, he comes in as RB21 for you here, Barry. Jay, I'll start with you, though, for Brian Robinson. Just to, we don't have too much bias on this answer. Can he keep this going?
I think he can. I mean, last year his yards per carry stuff was bleak, but at the same time, he was the number 8 running back by PFF grade last year. That's his same ranking this year. He's just really good. He's just a really good running back. He runs angry, and I've got bad news for everyone. I think the Commanders might be semi-decent. I think they might be a semi-decent team. The fact that they were able to put up 35 on what last year was a really strong Broncos defense and has most of the same personnel. Unfortunately, Sam Howell looks solid, good. He looks better than any of the rookie quarterbacks that we've seen so far this year. So I think that Brian Robinson can keep this going, and he's getting the work in the backfield, Matthew.
Look, he is. I mean, at least 20 touches in both games this season. What's exciting to me is through two games so far this year, he's got 49 receiving yards. He had 60 total receiving yards last year. The fact that he's just not a nothing in the pass game, I think, makes it really exciting. And look at the upcoming schedule for my beloved Commanders, my 2-0 Commanders. Again, you're not 2-0. You don't understand what this is like. But Lawrence,
I'm 1-1 like the Chiefs and the Bills.
Lawrence Connor and I all understand the feeling of being 2-0.
You guys, the Bucks, Falcons.
Exactly.
Powerhouses.
Powerhouse.
Galore.
1,000%.
We're
Commanders.
gonna bet on that
Yeah.
one too.
But here's their next 4: Bills, at Eagles, home to Chicago, at Atlanta. 3 of the next 4 opponents are bottom half of the NFL in terms of rushing defense. And that includes the Bills. Bills, very surprisingly, so far through 2 weeks of the season, they are 19th against the run. So I guess they've just been able to effectively run the ball. They will. So Brian Robinson, is a top 20 play. I am at 21 in my initial ranks, but he's a solid RB2.
Yeah, and with the Bills defense, Jordan Poyer doesn't look right at all. He's been bad, and Breece Hall did to that defense as well in week 1. I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Robinson has a better day than you would expect, because the Bills defense sounds scary, but it hasn't been so scary.
The other thing is that Antonio Gibson, one of the things he struggled with is fumbles, especially in the red zone. When they get in close, it's going to Brian Robinson.
Yep.
Another player off to a sizzling start, Puka Nacua, of course. He comes in as wide receiver 3 after 2 weeks. For Barry, he comes in as a top 10 wide receiver 9. I mean, listen, Barry, we talked about Puka Nacua before the season started, but this kind of volume while Cooper Kupp's been out has been insane for the rookie wide receiver.
He has 35 targets this year, leads the NFL. And you're like, well, who's number 2? Justin Jefferson. Okay, fine. But get this. Puka Nacua has 35 targets through 2 games. Number 2 is Justin Jefferson with 25.
Yeah.
He's literally like, what's the math there, Jay? He's like 20% better? He's like 30% better?
The way I think about it is like Mike Evans is having the best start to his career, basically, these first 2 years. Puka Nacua's got twice as many targets as Mike Evans. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Like, I tell my daughters, when you grow up and marry somebody, find somebody that looks at you the way that Matthew Stafford looks at Puka Nacua.
He is looking at him.
It's unbelievable. The other thing is that the schedule lines up nicely. Now, they're at Cincinnati this week. The Bengals have been sort of up and down, but after Cincinnati, they're playing at the Colts. Colts 29th against the pass. Then they're at Philadelphia, which is 31st against the pass so far. The Eagles' defense ain't the Eagles' defense from last year through 2 games. I mean, the Vikings went in there and put up a lot of points on them, a lot of yards as well. They had a lot of offseason losses, Philadelphia did. So they're going to keep throwing, and they're going to keep throwing to Puka Nacua. We don't know what this offense looks like when Cooper Kupp comes back, but it's at least 2 games until that. So, yeah, Puka Nacua clearly a top 10 play. I don't know anyone that has Nacua on their team that ain't starting him this week.
He's on a better pace than what Cooper Kupp was the year he won the Triple Crown, so he's eating good in everybody's neighborhood.
Yeah, that's very true.
Coming into the season, I thought that MVP would be between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I didn't anticipate it would be between Puka Nacua and Baker Mayfield. But here we are at the moment. I think this is just real. And the test will come when Cooper Kupp comes back and how much of a hit he takes. He will take a hit, clearly. But until that point, yeah, he's just locked and loaded as a top 10 play.
Our last one here, Lawrence.
It doesn't matter what kind of hit he takes, just in the sense that, like, because you got him for free.
Exactly.
Whatever you get out of him post Cooper Kupp is still profit.
And if he turns into what Tutu Atwell has done the first 2 weeks, that's still a really good wide receiver in fantasy.
Wide receiver. Yep.
All right, our last one here, Lawrence. Hunter Henry, who really wasn't even drafted in plenty of leagues, and right now he's tight end 2 in fantasy. He comes in as tight end 10 for Barry in week 3. When you look at New England's offense, it feels like so much of the targets, especially in the red zone, they're looking Hunter Henry's way.
Yeah, he's eating good as well. I actually have him at tight end 8 this week. How can we not, after a second consecutive week with at least 6 targets, 5 receptions, and over 50 yards? Oh, and he scored in both of those games. Like you said, when they get to the end zone, he's the guy. I wanted to see the Patriots not have to throw 55 times and see Hunter Henry still get this vibe. He's the clear tight end that they want to play over Mike Gesicki. So I'm riding with him. In this tight end landscape, you got to ride with him.
Yeah, look, he scored in both weeks, and I don't know that necessarily continues every week, and that's what's kind of helped his fantasy value. But I think there's a couple things that are going in his favor, right? And this is one of the reasons why, like, go back and look. He was on my preseason love list. Like, he was a sleeper that we talked about in the preseason because I was like, listen, he's somebody that throughout his career has always been kind of a touchdown machine. We've talked about this, how scoring touchdowns is a viable trait. And, like, whether it was with the Chargers or with the Patriots, he's always just sort of been this red zone threat who just finds a way to get open in the end zone. We've talked about the fact that we think this offense is going to be a lot more competent under Bill O'Brien, and it has been. Like, I'm with you, Lawrence. They don't want Mac Jones throwing it 50 times a game, but I think they're certainly more comfortable in opening it up under Mac Jones. It's a much more competent professional offense.
Definitely.
Bill O'Brien likes to run a lot of 12, and throughout preseason, Hunter Henry was clearly ahead of, from all the beat reporters and everything like that, Hunter Henry was clearly ahead of Mike Gesicki. There's a connection there. I mean, Hunter Henry and Mac Jones have played together for 2 years and 2 games at this point. He's tied for the team lead in red zone targets. And, you know, I mean, again, even if he hadn't scored the touchdown, he still had 5 for 50. He's been 5 for 50 in 2 straight games. So is Hunter Henry a tight end 1 the rest of the way? Yeah, especially given the bar that it takes to clear. Like, I'll ask you guys this. Rest of the season, who would you rather have, Hunter Henry or Pat Freiermuth?
I'd rather have Hunter Henry.
I'd rather have Hunter Henry.
I don't want
I just dealt
anything.
with this exact situation in my main league.
He's leading their team in receiving yards right now.
I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, Pat Freiermuth was drafted as a top 8 fantasy tight end, and you guys were. And by the way, I agree with you. And we're like, there was no hesitation.
I think I'm going to start. I'm facing you in fantasy this week, and I've got a decision between Pat Frymuth and Zach Ertz. I might go Zach Ertz, to be honest.
I'll go Zach Ertz.
I don't want you to beat me, but I mean, when you look at my rankings, listen, they're playing Dallas, so
we're going to have to throw a ton because they're going to be down by 50 points.
Well, honestly, they're going to have to throw a ton, and they're going to have to throw it short because Micah Parsons is going to be in Josh Dobbs' face within 1.5 seconds. So it's just not going to be a lot of long plays.
So the main reason that you like Hunter Henry over Pat Frymuth is that Kenny Pickett has been a disaster to this point. He may get better, but Mac Jones looks more like rookie Mac Jones than last year's Mac Jones, and that's a good thing. He looks very competent, and even though they're 0-2, like they very easily could have beaten the Eagles. They could have sent the Miami game to OT as well. They're fine. This is a competent offense, and guys will be able to put up value.
I think I'm gonna look this up. Penn State Blake, when he wasn't bemoaning his his 0-2 start, he sent me a note here and just said, like, you think about last week, right? 6 different drives the Patriots had in Miami territory resulted in 3 points total. Like, again, the Patriots just have no, but honestly, they've had some bad luck. The point is they've had some bad luck. They had some early turnovers as well, and so I just think that they'll have a little bit more success in the red zone. In the red area as well as that offense as they continue to learn under Bill O'Brien and get used to that offense here. They're on the road at the Jets this week. That'll be a tough matchup. But again, when you think about that matchup, right? You've got Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. I mean, so you don't love Devontae Parker and Kendrick Bourne. What's going to be available to you is the middle of the field. Yeah. Like that's where Mac Jones is going to have to go.
He's going to take that anyway. Yeah. So he's definitely doing it now.
Yeah. So anyway.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we're back, we're going back to keep it open or close it out. Of course, talking Justin Fields and Najee Harris. Some tough decisions to make coming up right after this. The lights don't get any brighter as Notre Dame Stadium will set the scene for a matchup built for prime time. It's the number 6 Ohio State Buckeyes and the number 9 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 7 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC and Peacock. Keep it open or close it out. This is our variation since we are at the bar of a little start-sit action. And we're going to start with the player that, man, the spotlight is just on Justin Fields this year, fellas. I mean, Jay, when you look at Fields' start to the season, not exactly how Bears fans had hoped. And we look at fantasy perspective, not even getting that production this year either, as he comes in as QB 21 on the season. For Barry going into the week, he is QB 12. Do you still feel comfortable starting Justin Fields?
Not really, no. I think the issue with Fields is that, so last year, and people seem to gloss over this, he averaged 149 passing yards per game. Like, that's insanely low. Bryce Young was set at 189 passing yards in the Monday night matchup, and that's about as low as you're going to get for a quarterback. So Fields was always dependent on his rushing ability, and so much of that value last year came on these 60, 70-yard runs that he was just breaking every week. And if he's not getting that on the ground, which he hasn't been, then all of a sudden he has to be a better passer, and it just hasn't been there at all, Matthew. He's made no strides through 2 weeks.
And you mentioned the lack of rushing. He's got 4 rushing attempts.
It's insane. Where are the
4
design
rushing
runs?
attempts. He's been under 15 fantasy points in both games this year. In 16 of his 17 career games, he's had under 220 passing yards. It's not a great matchup with Kansas City. Now, they got a little bit lucky against Jacksonville, but the fact of the matter is Chris Jones is back, and that is the 3rd best scoring defense in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. I got a lot of grief in the preseason about why didn't you name Justin Fields your ride or die? Everyone thought I was going to name Justin Fields my ride or die, and he was on the list at one point. And then the more I looked at it, I saw like, hey, that fantasy value was so inflated's probably not the wrong word, but just like he had these crazy 60, 70-yard touchdown runs that just is unsustainable. That's right. And so I will say this. This is shocking to me, the fact that they're not having designed runs for him and that he hasn't progressed any as a passer, that I thought adding DJ Moore would help him. And look, the jury's still out, but listen, on the road at Kansas City this week, that's a tough place to play. I can't imagine, like, when my love-hate list comes out, he's going to be on it this week. I just don't know how you feel comfortable starting him this week. So, yeah, I'm not dropping him, but I'm closing it out for sure. And in leagues in where I have Justin Fields, I have him in a few, like I've been aggressive at trying to get another quarterback to start this week.
Yep, he's been QB 21 to date against 2 defenses in the Packers and Bucks who were fine, but they're not, he's not going up against the Cowboys or anything. And he's been in game scripts which should be favorable to accumulating fantasy points, and he's QB 21.
Well, you mentioned the game script here. This is the Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points. So this is the type of game that you would hope he could rack up at some point. I'm going to leave it open because I have him at quarterback 11 this week, right? You mentioned the 149 yards passing per game last season. He's at least got that to 213 right now. So, but the problem is, ain't no rushing. So, like, you want the 213 passing yards with the, like.
You can have the 64 passing yards back. Let's get the 70 rushing.
What you're hoping for here is that Chris Jones gets through the line and Justin Fields running for his life all on Sunday, which could certainly happen.
Just break one time.
And he's one of those guys that, like, all he needs is one of those to make his, you know, I mean, like, he breaks up a 60-yard run for a touchdown. That's made your day, right? And so I'm going to put him on the hate list, and maybe that will vault him to getting out of this funk because, you know, like, I had Kirk Cousins on the hate list each of the last 2 weeks. He's made me look stupid. Love hate's been pretty good so far this year, but my quarterback hate has been an Achilles heel, if you were. I've just missed a lot there, and he'll be on the hate list this week. So I'm nervous about it with Fields again. Like, it's just.
I think a lot of people drafted guys like Jared Goff and Geno Smith to be their backup in favorable matchups. He's starting both of those guys over Fields this week. It's close, right?
I mean, again, like I have him at 12. So I mean, he's a borderline starter for me. Again, Lawrence has him at 11. I'm at 12. I will say this. I mean, like, again, they're 12.5-point underdogs. I kind of like the Chiefs to cover there. Like, all right, look, honestly, the Bears haven't been able to stop anyone, and I just feel like at home, this is a Mahomes gets right game.
Yes.
Last week was Kelsey's first game.
Yep.
First game back, and
Tony and Moore looked better.
Tony and Moore looked better as well. You know, Justin Watson got a pass interference call that would have added to the total. I think this is back to being. Oh yeah, those are the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Feels like 41-14.
Feels like this could just be an ass kicking. Yeah.
Let's move over to Najee Harris here. On the season, he just sneaks in as a top 50 running back. He's RB48. Barry comes in this week as RB26 for you. We've seen more of Jaylen Warren, especially in the pass game. For everybody that was really nervous about Najee Harris to draft him this season, as we saw his ADP fall, they look right.
Yeah, I mean, the people that were nervous to draft him are 2-0. The person who's not nervous to draft him.
That's fine. Got him 3 rounds after his ADP. Terrible process from Jay there. Yeah, I'll never do that again.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe there
was a reason.
He's got like 27.
All right, it's fine. Listen, anytime you can use a 6th-round pick on running back 50, you got to do it.
Listen,
that's what you're saying here.
There's two problems. One, he's been terrible himself. The other problem is that his offensive line is a complete mess. It's been something. It wasn't a strength last year. It's somehow it's gotten worse. These young players generally young players get better. They've all gotten worse. And every time that he's on the field, it just feels like he's running in mud. And then Jaylen Warren comes in, and it feels like he's running downhill. Yeah. And it just feels like a matter of time before that flips and Jaylen Warren's the starter.
And you know what's crazy? A lot of what people complained about Najee Harris was his yards per carry. In the first 2 games, that's over 4.5 yards.
Okay, but here's the thing. I watched that game. 8 of those runs went absolutely nowhere, and then he broke 2 in the fourth quarter.
The problem is this. He only has 16 carries through 2 games. The offense ain't good, so there's not as many goal line opportunities, and he's not getting the targets. This is a dude who has 70-plus catches as a rookie. He's getting none of that now.
It's all going to Jaylen Warren. He's played under 60% of the snaps in both games. He's had under 45 rushing yards in both games this season. The only thing you can sort of hang your hat on here, and he comes in at running back 26 for me this week, is that he's playing Las Vegas. And so far through 2 weeks, the Raiders have the 6th worst run defense in the NFL on the road at Las Vegas. This is their home opener, right? And they're 1-1. There's some optimism, right? Mm-hmm. They lost a tough one, but they won a nice one in week 1. And whatever. They lost big at Buffalo. That happens to a lot of teams. I don't think you're ready to write off the Raiders yet. My point is that there's a chance Las Vegas sort of comes up for this game in their home opener against the Steelers. It's Sunday Night Football. It's prime time. NBC and Peacock. Tune in to see if Najee Harris can not be terrible.
Najee Harris can get to 50 rushing yards.
Raiders minus 2.5.
Well, look, this line opened like 1.5. Everyone is betting the Raiders. All the shops in the market have hammered the Raiders, and they're now 2.5-point favorites. I still think they cover that. The Steelers have been terrible.
You know what? I will tell you this. every time you're ready to write off the Steelers, here comes Mike Tomlin. Like, I'm not going to ever say, like, Mike Tomlin's going to, like.
He had Ben Roethlisberger for a lot of that, though, and now he's got Kenny Pickett, who is saying.
Who, by the way, went, 7-2 down the stretch last year? They were like, this team's awful, Kenny Pickett's awful, and that team was playing for a playoff spot in the final week of last year.
Yeah.
To put a bow on this, you start Najee this week because it's Las Vegas?
I mean, if I'm Jay Croucher against me, I am, absolutely. I think you should.
Listen,
you're out.
No, I mean, look,
I'm
at 26. I mean, literally, like during the commercial break, I was telling you, a friend of mine literally texted me, I'm thinking about starting Zach Moss over Najee Harris. Am I crazy? And I'm like, you're not crazy.
That's all you need to know.
Right. Zach, I mean, you're not crazy for that. Like, Zach Moss got 98% of the carries last week. We'll see if Richardson plays. He's in the concussion protocol. But the fact that that's a legitimate question, should I play Zach Moss or Najee Harris, should tell you, to your point, Lawrence, everything you need to know. God, I can't stand it.
That tells you what you need to know, too.
Yeah.
I'm going to close it out. I'm going to close it out. I mean, again, I'm at 26, and I don't feel good about it. I think I might be too high on him at 26.
Lawrence, how about another running back that's just barely holding on?
He probably falls into the end zone in this one. That's the key here, is that he probably falls.
He has to.
Yeah.
He has to.
Yeah, that's
Someone's
the only hope you got.
Because he can't run forward.
His offensive line needs to push him in.
No, but so it's a good matchup. That's the positives.
Raiders win. Okay.
Lawrence, another running back in a similar ranking.
The Raiders win, but you think the Steelers cover?
No, I think the Raiders will
You think
win
the
by
Raiders
field
cover?
goal or better.
Cover the
I
2.5.
think
Oh, interesting.
But Jimmy's been good. Jimmy is good
Yeah.
when he's healthy. He's a good quarterback.
Him and Josh McDaniels.
And we don't know that about Kenny Pickett yet.
Yeah,
fair.
I think Pickett gets back on track. I think they get back on track. I think the Raiders win this one. I think the Steelers might cover this one, actually. I think this is going to be closer than people give it credit for. But we'll see.
Another running back in a similar spot, Dameon Pierce. He's RB46 on the season. The Texans, they're missing multiple starters on the offensive line. They are dealing with a young quarterback that's actually looked solid, but he's still going through some ups and downs as well. With Dameon Pierce right now, Lawrence, the thing that stands out to me, he's only played 47% of the snaps in these first 2 games. This could be the script the Texans are looking at often.
Right, and that's the thing you worry about. If he was playing, 70% of the snaps, you might feel different. And based on his ranking right now, we're actually being generous. I got him at RB28 this week. The problem with this is the Jags are 9.5-point favorites, so you kind of know how you expect this game to go, much like the other ones, right? So when that happens, you see less Dameon Pierce because he's a runner, never's been, efficient in getting volume in the receiving game. So I'm going to close it out on him just because of how I think the game script going to go. And they throwing the ball. They looking good throwing the ball. They getting it. We talking about picking up their receivers, Robert Woods and Tank Dell, as opposed to, should we start Dameon Pierce? So I'm going to have to close it out this week.
So last night, my 1-year-old daughter woke up at like 2 a.m. and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm scrolling through Twitter and just randomly at like 2:15 a.m. I just watched this Twitter clip of every single CJ Stroud drop back from week 2. That's how sick I am. Just watching that at 2:15 in the morning. And he had no chance at all with that offensive line. It was like Tom Hardy in Mad Max Fury Road trying to escape all the guys chasing him. It was absolutely insane. And Dameon Pierce, by osmosis, had no chance whatsoever either. And this team is missing 80% of its offensive line. And until Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard, until those guys come back, just no running back is going to be viable. You put pick Jonathan Taylor behind these guys, he's got no chance at all. If you've got 3 defensive linemen swarming you the moment you get the ball.
Jacksonville, by the way, so far this season has allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards to running backs. Now, week 1 was against the Colts with, Deion Jackson and so week 2 was against the Chiefs, and that was a game that was offensively challenged. But there's a chance the Jaguars do have a decent run defense here. I'm with you in terms of the offensive line is brutal. I do think things get better for Dameon Pierce. I think he's a talented player. They play the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 4, which has been a bad run defense so far, and then the Falcons in week 5, and hopefully they get some offensive linemen back for those games as well. So I'm not ready to bail on Dameon Pierce season-wise, but I'm with Lawrence and Jay here. I'm closing it out for week number 3. He's my running back 29. I'm even lower on him than Lawrence's. You said you had him at 28?
28.
Yeah, you love him. Yeah,
you love him. Compared to where he actually ranked, I do.
That's fair. It's factually correct. By the way, I like Jay sitting here going, it's like that scene in Mad Max where Tom Hardy's being chased. Like, that's the entire movie.
Exactly. That's the Houston Texans offense.
It's literally the entire movie. It's an hour and a half of just by the way, it's an amazing movie.
Very good.
It's really, really good.
Almost as good as Magnolia.
Oh my God, don't get me started
Back
with
to
Magnolia.
There goes the segment.
Yeah, great film. doesn't make a lot of
Not
sense.
enough chasing. There's not enough chase scenes in Magnolia, to be
true.
perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Listen, another running back.
Less male nudity, more chase scenes, and then that movie would have had me.
Another running back off to a tough start, Alexander Mattison. A little better than Pierce Najee Harris. He comes in as RB34. But, Barry, the good news for Mattison is he sees the Chargers this week. Maybe leave this one open a little longer?
Yeah, I'm at running back 12. The positives of Mattison is he's getting a massive workload. 74% of the snaps through week 2, 74% of the team's running back touches. Chargers are 30th in scoring defense. They've allowed 3 rushing touchdowns in 2 games here. And since the start of last year, the Bolts are allowing 5.4 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That's the most in the NFL. This offense is rolling. The reason the Vikings have lost, honestly, is a little bit on their defense and a couple of bad breaks. They haven't been able to get the running game going. I think that changes against Brandon Staley. Now, there's probably a chance that Brandon Staley also is like, I'm going to just put single coverage on Justin Jefferson. That worked so well against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, so I'll just put some random dude on Justin Jefferson, see how that goes. But I'm standing by Alexander Mattison. I think he's a talented player. It's a good matchup. He's getting massive volume.
Yeah, with this game, too, in the over-under at 54.5, you could imagine that both teams will have opportunities at the goal line. Now, last week I had Mattison at running back 30. He ended up 34. I'm not as high on him this week as you, Matthew. That's like Snoop Dogg high. But I did move him up to shout out to Snoop Dogg.
Tom Hardy, baby wake-ups,
I do have him at running back 21, and he's been getting 74% of the Vikings running back touches. So I'm keeping it open this week as well.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the thing here, Snoop Dogg aside, is, speaking of that, the total's also really high. And as you mentioned, Lawrence, 54.5. It's a touchdown higher than any other game this week. There's going to be a lot of points.
Yeah.
Matthew's
high as Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
No, high as Snoop Dogg, high as my cholesterol. Like, it's
There's
like
a lot
whatever.
of jokes to be had there.
It's really, right. There's a lot of different ways you could go with it. Sure. But yeah, you like them.
Sure, yeah, I like your
Love
Matthew. I thought you were going to do better than the cholesterol thing. I think you maybe had some more, some non-PG-13 ones cooking there. But that's right, stay employed.
Poor Alexa's been buried in HR emails all week. Like, I just, like, give her a day off. Poor Alexa.
That's good to hold back sometimes.
Yeah, every once in a while.
Rare for us. All right, next one up here, Jay. Rashod Bateman. This is the toughest ranking we have on the list. Wide receiver.
Did I ever tell you the time that I...
In East Lansing?
No, I'm not going to go to the East Lansing story, but this is a very quick Snoop Dogg story. I only have one. I have one Snoop Dogg story.
Like
so I was supposed to. Snoop Dogg was doing what we called a car wash at ESPN, where it's like they come in and they do show after show after show after show, and we actually had Snoop Dogg scheduled to be on my podcast. I was supposed to interview Snoop. And so we're sitting there. It's like on a 12:30 or whatever time we were supposed to do the interview, and I'm sitting there waiting. Done show. And literally we're like, where's Snoop? And like, we're texting or emailing like the handler that's bringing Snoop around, and like we finally get the response, we're so sorry, Snoop had to get stoned. Literally like this, like it just, in all seriousness, it's like no pretense at all. Like Snoop just, like he'd been doing shows all morning and he had a long afternoon and just, sorry, he blew it off. And so what I did though, was I had another guy, like I don't know if you guys know Christopher Harris, who's does his own thing, was a fantasy analyst at ESPN at the time, and so he was a guest on the show, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do the Snoop Dogg interview, but I haven't had any questions prepared for you, Chris Harris. I've only got the Snoop Dogg questions, so I just did an interview I just did my Snoop Dogg questions for Christopher Harris. Who is probably the most opposite, if you know him at all. He's completely opposite of Snoop Dogg. And it's just like, all right, so Chris, how do you keep your pimp hand strong? And so it was all those interviews and then the coda to that is that and then we published it Snoop Dogg blew us off, but we still did the interview anyway. And Snoop quote tweeted it and said, that's pretty funny, and like, ha ha ha. And he sent me a DM saying, hey man, I'm sorry, I owe you one. Like, that's actually really funny. Good for you guys or whatever. So anyway, there you go. Little Snoop Dogg detour.
A little aside. Yeah.
Anyway.
Rashod Bateman.
All right, Jay, Rashod Bateman.
Anyway, this is
Wide receiver 83.
This is a pro Snoop Dogg table.
Yes,
is what I'm saying.
absolutely.
This is a show.
Yeah.
All day.
Pro
Believe
Snoop.
that.
Nice.
Pro Snoop.
High approval rating. Anti-Rashod Bateman table, though, I would have thought.
Yes.
Connor. He has 6 targets in 2 games for offense that was advertised as an explosive, high-octane passing offense, but it's kind of just been the offense that it was last year, more or less. I think the only guy that you want in the pass game, well, look, you want Mark Andrews as tight end, and then outside of that, it's Zay Flowers, who's still, he got the yards last week, but it was kind of on one bomb. He's not getting the targets either, and Rashod Bateman's much further down the pecking
Single-digit fantasy points in 6 straight games played. I didn't rank him this week. He's played just 50% of the snaps. I said this on my Twitter thread. I did 10 Twitter takeaways or whatever, 10 takeaways thread or something. I don't know what I called it. Something illiterate. Illiterate with an A, not an I. But all I'm going to say is that I have no problem if you drop Rashod Bateman. I was dead wrong on Rashod Bateman. Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers.
Yep.
I'm not starting any Raven that isn't named one of those 3 names.
And you'd rather have Odell over Rashod Bateman at this point.
Well, we'll see about the ankle.
Yeah, if he's healthy.
We'll see, but
you don't want him anyway.
You don't want any of these guys. We did our waiver show yesterday, and Rashod Bateman was on the feel free to drop.
Yep.
Welcome to Dumpsville, population U.
Lawrence, our last one here, JuJu Smith-Schuster, who only is averaging 7.6 points per game. We thought he could potentially be the number 1 for this Patriots offense. He's not been involved at all. He's wide receiver 66 on the season. He's unranked for Barry in this week's rankings. Is it time to kind of call it a day with starting JuJu?
JuJu, if you see this, look, you know you my dog. You my Player X partner right here. We both repping Player X. But, man, they got to treat you like you was on the Chiefs. They got to treat you like when you was in Pittsburgh. Matthew Berry's about to say something right here, but let me finish real quick. Look, JuJu. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna give you props. That was a Matthew Berry-esque plug.
Yeah,
that was like
seamless.
Look, I don't just show up. I show up and learn.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
learn the game.
That's well done. That's
But
right.
JuJu, you behind.
Yeah.
You know, you
Don't
behind.
hate the player, hate the game.
You behind Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne right now in targets. So, man, for this week, you got the bread though. You got the wide receiver 1 bread, and I love that for you. But this week, gotta close it out.
I think
we awkward board meeting between over there at Player X between you and
told
JuJu.
everyone
you
to
know
bench
what we
me
really
this
need
week.
is we need Player X to be an investor in FantasyLife.com, and then we can just really bring
all-
it all
all-
together.
all
We're all
circle.
just
Then
one
we
big
can have
promo
8
this entire
CD
show.
Lamb get involved too.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic.
Love my guy Abe.
Everybody
but
be eating good, Jay.
Yeah.
honestly, look, he's averaging 3.9 yards per target. That's 53rd out of 62 qualified wide receiver with a minimum of 10 targets here. He's got an under 14% target share. I think his knees are shot. I got to be honest with you. Love the player. Wish him to. I doesn't feel like you can count on any kind of consistent success.
They don't think so.
Right? No.
It doesn't. I mean, they paid him like they could, and then maybe reality sunk in quick.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you want a deep league stash on the Patriots, Demario Douglas, the rookie, I think you're going to see him. He had the bad fumble last week, but that's a kid that I know that they really
explosive.
like.
Yeah,
And
love
that second half of the year, I think he's going to earn some more trust. And as the season doesn't go the way the Patriots want, they need to get him more reps as well. But I think it's not counting Hunter Henry. For me, it's Kendrick Bourne, it's Devontae Parker, and then maybe it's JuJu Smith-Schuster.
Yep.
All right, crush your Sunday scaries next weekend with the best remedy possible, Sunday Night Football. Check out NBCSports.com/ScaryGoodSNF to enter for a chance to win a trip for 2 to a Sunday Night Football game next season, and check out our watch party schedule. We're taking one more break. When we're back, it's early line alert for Week 3, including a handful of games DraftKings expects to go down to the wire. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and today new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
So, well, the Magpies could use me. That's a good
Yeah,
player.
they could
That's true.
against Greater Western Sydney.
Yeah,
big game.
exactly.
Preliminary final.
I'm taking Sydney and giving the points.
Okay, yeah, 10.5. There you go.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
The line
plus
is 10.5.
Yeah.
The fact that you know,
That's too quick.
the fact that you know off the top of your head what the line is for
it's the sickness.
Australian rules
It's the
football.
sickness that does it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are a degenerate of degenerates.
As always, Jay all over the lines. And it's
I
early
want-
line alert for us.
I want to do a game where you, me, maybe Lawrence, we'll see. We'll see if he can find a clean Player X outfit to come. He's only got like 6. I where we just basically, yell random sporting events at Jay and see if he knows the line.
I agree.
Hey, here's this ping pong tournament in Korea. Like, do you know who? Like what? And just
It would have to make it really hard. Can't be like Liberty in the playoffs. That's too easy.
No,
for him
that's
at
too
this
easy.
point.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. No, we're not doing any WNBA stuff. That stuff he knows like the back of his hand. It's got to be like obscure stuff. It's got to be like like cricket. Like it's got to be.
that might be too easy.
That might be too easy as well.
Australian.
It's an international Renaissance, man.
Yeah.
Renaissance, man.
That's right.
Interesting, like Greater Western Sydney, even with Nick Dacos back for Collingwood. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just saying that to Connor the other day.
Yeah.
We were texting about that. We have our own private text thread where we talk
We talk about Nick Dacos and the Collingwood Magpies.
it's a bunch of Australian rules football because we don't want you to come in and ruin our good time.
Yeah,
I
we
know
named
Nick
the chat
listens to
too.
the show.
Yeah.
It just says happy hour without Jay.
Happy hour with that Jay. Yeah.
All right.
What do you got for us, Jay?
Hey, DraftKings, how's that sponsorship going?
Yeah.
We're thrilled with the Collingwood Magpies.
Yeah, go Pies. My favorite line this week, the Miami Dolphins. Not to be confused with the high-octane Collingwood Magpies offense. They are only 6-point favorites home to the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos just gave up 35 points to your Commanders, who I think are better than expected, but they're still not the Dolphins offense. Expecting Teron Armstead will be back, Jalen Phillips. We'll see what happens with Jalen Waddle. But I think this Dolphins team is a juggernaut. I think they're unstoppable on offense. This Denver defense hasn't been as good as it was last year as well. I think this line should be a touchdown, and the Broncos will cover up. The Dolphins will cover -6.
If you like points and you like overs, take the Chargers and the Vikings at 54.5 right here. This is the empty calorie quarterback stat padding championships. I got Justin Herbert as my quarterback 3, Kirk Cousins as my quarterback 7. Take your overs on the all prop bets.
Right. If you like points, go with Lawrence's game. If you don't like points, take mine. I want the under on 39, Titans versus Browns. Like, both teams are a top 3 rush defense. I don't know how they score. No Nick Chubb. Like, they can't throw. It's all going to be on Deshaun Watson because they're not going to be able to run against Tennessee. I think Watson looks terrible. I'm taking the under. I don't know how either of these teams score. I like the under on the Titans-Browns.
I'm looking at an under. Texans-Jaguars. I think it's going to be an ugly game. It's at 43.5. That'll go down, I think, throughout the week.
For Connor, Jay, and Lawrence, I'm Matthew. It's closing time. You got to go home. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.